Hello, everyone. Welcome to Grid Live Pre-Race. Joe Samaniego here, along with Joshua Burke from Joshua Burke Motorsports, Alex Anderson from the Racing Podcast, and Isha Azim. Great to have you all here, and a big thank you to our Patreon subscribers, Colin Show, Mark Robin, and David, the newest one. You too can invest in the Grid Network through the link in Patreon. Help us get to the track more frequently, and especially we're going to have Portland coming up shortly, so we'll be at the track, but we'd love to add more tracks to our portfolio and have our team members go there as well. And you can also do Buy Me a Coffee, where you can set the amount of how much you want to give to a particular on-air person right here at the Grid Network. Now, before we get started with IndyCar and NASCAR preview, we do want to acknowledge the sad situation going on in Hawaii with the Maui wildfires. Unfortunately, there's been loss of life, a lot of folks being displaced, evacuating. We're thinking of everyone during this horrible time. And of course, it's one of those things where it's just a really sad situation for everyone, but we're definitely thinking of everybody because Hawaii, a lot of folks have been there. A lot of folks internationally have gone there. We know a long time ago there was talks about a super Prix there with the kart days. Definitely thinking of everyone during their hard times over there, and it's one of those things where everyone here at Grid Network is thinking of everyone and sending our best wishes to everyone and hopeful that they'll rebuild, and of course we know they will, as they always will be, the spirit of Hawaii. With that said, the spirit of racing of course seems to always in a way help people cope with such sad things and provides a good distraction. One of the big things, Indianapolis Motor Speedway, going to be a huge weekend there, Isha. We got not only the IndyCar series, but the NASCAR series. But a lot of folks wondering what's going to happen in 2024 now.
Yep, starting off with IndyCar, the famed and historic Indianapolis Motor Speedway hosts an IndyCar and NASCAR doubleheader. This is the third time the NASCAR Cup Series is racing on this road course. However, there are strong rumors that the NASCAR Cup Series will return to the famed 2.5-mile oval for the return of the Brickyard 400. And these rumors started spreading after a Goodyear tire test, and next year will mark 30 years since the first Brickyard 400 back in 1994. So starting with Alex, if NASCAR does return to the oval, would it still be possible to see IndyCar share the weekend with NASCAR, and will the crowd return to the Brickyard 400?
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think you're going to see this doubleheader specifically at Indianapolis. I think maybe they could move it somewhere else if both the series wanted to. I personally would love them to do it at Road America, but NASCAR, of course, did just leave Road America off the Cup schedule. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think the crowd is going to be anywhere close to what we had in the 90s at Indianapolis. I think if anything, you might get close to what they had before. You might have a decent crowd the first year they bring it back for the anniversary and everything, but other than that, I don't think it's going to be anything extraordinary. But I am excited to see the Brickyard 400 back. I think going back to the road course for NASCAR was a little weird. I get it, but I'm excited to see the Gen 7 car, if it happens, on the oval.
I think it was a foolish mistake for it to leave, to be fair. NASCAR is mainly ovals. They have a couple of road courses, but you want to make it big at Indianapolis, you don't put it on the road course. I think much like what happened with Formula One, how it failed at Indianapolis was because of the tyre dramas. Not one, but two tyre dramas we've had with NASCAR at the oval course. That's now a day of the past. I don't know if I'm glitching a lot actually on this. That might be annoying, so sorry if I am. That's now a thing of the past, which is great news. I think returning to the oval would be for the best, definitely will be for the best. And it's not unlikely that we could see it affecting IndyCar, who run the road course, because, of course, the first year we had this double between them late on in the year. We had NASCAR on the oval and Indy on the road course. So it can be done. We've seen it happen before. But certainly I'd like to see them back on the oval as soon as possible, because we get good racing occasionally, but they've all been pretty poor, haven't they, on the road course for the NASCARs? It's not a 400. And yeah, the crowds aren't big enough, but if you remember all the times from when it was really going down, it was the worldwide recession as well. We had loads of other problems. We've seen Indianapolis now with no one in the grandstands during the COVID years as well, even with limited capacity. So I think bringing it back with Roger Penske now at the helm as well, knowing how to promote both the series, it's got traction. And I reckon if it does come back, it'll come back a bit bigger than it was before when it left. There's an attraction there now. And it's not the same world it was when it left. There's now more online presence, more online streaming. Things is good. I understand my audio is good, but the picture's a bit blocky, so I'll get that sorted. But yeah, so it's good that it's a different world now. Streaming's different. NASCAR's got traction worldwide. It's very popular getting here in the UK as well. Now that Viaplay are losing the contract, rumours it's going to either TNT Sports or Sky Sports. So there's a lot of positives, and I think if you put it on the road course, it doesn't work. Put it on an oval, you've got something special there. And with Roger Penske now behind it all, it's going to be very, very good. So he knows how to promote it and do it well. Not like Tony Stewart. We've seen that in the past, haven't we? He can promote anything right.
I would love to see this doubleheader continue on at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the racing capital of the world. If here in the United States, considered the place to be for motorsports racing and the history here. It will be hard because we know once before they did have it where they had the Indy cars and then the Brickyard 400, and that's when we saw Brad Keselowski spin, exit in turn 2, hit that weird tire wall situation, get flipped over. Overall, I do think we will see an increase in the crowd. Will we see what we saw from 94 up until the tire fiasco with Goodyear and the cautions every 10 laps? That's going to be really hard to tell. The big thing, though, I do see a bump eventually that first year because people are going to be excited. It's back, the 30th year. Roger Penske's now leading it. It's a different management at Indianapolis Motor Speedway compared to years past where you had the Holman, George family. I see a lot of potential. It's just the big thing is giving it some time, too. We got a brand new car where we can see what this car do. We saw what the tire test can do. I think it's going to put on a better product, but we can't just judge it on next year. If it next year goes pretty good smooth, that's a great sign. But if it doesn't go smooth, don't right away jump to conclusion and say, oh, give it up. Let's give it at least another 2 or 3 years.
Yes, and
just testing. Yeah. Good.
Yes, and the Brickyard 400 is seen by many as one of the crown jewel races in the Cup Series, home of the IndyCar Indianapolis 500 race, and next year, an IMSA endurance race. So currently, a lot is happening at Indianapolis for next year, and a lot of action yesterday for the NTT IndyCar Series, including a surprise pole winner with Graham Rahal, which was Detroit's first pole since 2017. Last time at IMS, there was a disaster bump day, which saw him fail to qualify for the Indy 500. He did get in as a substitute, but was unable to start on time. His teammate had a strong run at the last road course race, with all 3 Rahal cars in the top 10. So starting with Josh, is Rahal Letterman Lingen Racing turning the page for the better overall?
I really think it is, and I think it's about time as well. That car was just awful at the month of May, wasn't it? It was painfully slow. Every single session they went out there, every time they tried to put traction onto it, it wouldn't work. They kept doing setup changes. They had 8 practice sessions before the final part of qualifying, and they just could not get that car in a working order. And then he got in, of course, because of, ironically, his teammate, Catherine Legg, of course, making contact, Stefan Wilson being out of the race. And he sort of said, don't worry, after you can go in. And he did take part in the race, started late, ended up retiring, so it wasn't all that great. But I think coming back here, dominating the practice session before quali, and then taking pole position was a major moment for his mental health in terms of, this car is good, this place isn't a bad luck charm, I can perform here, I will perform here. So it was great news. And I knew as soon as we saw the practice times, something was brewing. Then in qualifying, the first part, he was fast. Herta sort of dropped off there as well. He was threatening him for a little bit in the first part, but Rahal really set the mark, and now it's a 1-2 on the grid. And I love as well, we saw with the little fist bump between the two in the pit lane as well, which was fantastic. And Graham finally does look like he's having fun. What is it? Only his third, or it's either his 3rd or 9th career pole start. I can't remember which one of the 2 that was. I've caught a lot of qualifying sessions over the past 24 hours. So it's very good that he's got a pole position at this place. Started last in May, starts in 1st here in August. And I think that's the way he wants to keep that across the next 80 laps today.
Yeah, I totally agree. We have a comment in the chat room from Jackson. Hi, Jackson. And he says, we wouldn't have this level of international driver appeal if we were on the oval. Jenson Button and Kamui Kobayashi wouldn't be at Indy this week if it was the oval. I agree. I mean, we have had Jenson Button race a couple of races, and we also have Adam saying that he misses the Brickyard 400. A lot of fans want it back. I think both of these comments are true and accurate because 400 is a lot. It's just a big name, it's a prestigious race. But you are on the road course, and you are getting a lot of these big name drivers going for the NASCAR race over there. But regarding Rahal, Letterman, Lanigan, man, what a turnaround this team has had. As you mentioned, Josh, they were all of their cars were like in threat of being bumped from the Indy 500, and Rahal did get bumped, did get to race because of Steph Wilson getting injured. But what a turnaround. This team was running like all in the 20s, except maybe Lundgaard would run like top 10 every once in a while. Just so impressive. They have just continued to get better. Lundgaard got that win a few weeks ago. For Graham Rahal to get the pole at the same track, although a different layout, the same track where he got bumped from the Indianapolis 500, that is such a cool story. And for Lundgaard to be right alongside him, that's just awesome. And Jack Harvey, who's had just a horrible season, also decent qualifying run for him as well. So I definitely think RLL, they could definitely keep turning it around. They need to, quite honestly. And I hope they do.
Yeah, and now let's take a look at another team that's turning the page for next year. We have Meyer Shank Racing, where Elio Castroneves will be stepping away from full-time racing, Tom Blomqvist coming in 2024, and Linus Lundqvist substituting again after a strong race at Nashville before crashing out. So we had a 14th place starting for Lundqvist, and Castroneves was at 12th. Tom did not complete a lap at Toronto due to the first corner crash at the start. Linus now has more seat time than Blomqvist. So starting with Alex, could this be Lundqvist's last opportunity to show what he can do?
Now, this is far from Linus Lundqvist's last opportunity. He has so much potential, and he had an incredible debut. Like, I know he crashed out, but he's gonna do so many great things. Because I just think once a team signs him for IndyCar, he's gonna be a star. I really do think that. He won the Indy Next Championship last year. He's only raced one race. This isn't his last opportunity at all, and he almost made past another round in qualifying again. I forget which round exactly, but he made it pretty far in qualifying, which is hard for a rookie to do, because Tom Blomqvist didn't do it either in his first debut, and neither did Scott McLaughlin. And I think he'll get a team. I don't know exactly where, as we did get announced that Tom Blomqvist will be driving for that team next year, and Elio Indy 500 only next year. So I don't know where he fits in, but I think he'll get a ride somewhere.
I've just got this feeling that there's something else brewing that we haven't yet been told, because it's very unusual. You've got Linus Lundqvist, who's come up through the Indy Lights and now Indy NXT, of course. He's the champion from last season. He's got a seat in the car. He's, I understand, doing what could be the next two races as well, with an eye to have Pagenaud back at the last race at Laguna Seca due to his concussion-like symptoms. But I've just got this feeling that we've had Helio announce he's only doing the 500. I don't think Simon Pagenaud is going to stay with the team. I really don't. Now, is there a seat elsewhere for him? That's a question, because he went to Meyer after getting dropped from Penske, of course. He hasn't really been liking the team. He hasn't had any success with Meyer Shank, so whether he's got an eye somewhere else, but I don't know where it's open. Everywhere's closing out. So unless Pagenaud has decided with that accident that that's enough for me, I don't want to do anymore, I'll come back and have a year off, then that's something. But it just strikes me, you don't sign a driver who did a very good qualifying but didn't do a single lap in a race. You don't do that. Now, Tom Blomqvist, I know him mainly from Formula E. He was in it for a season, and he was an okay driver, but no disrespect to him, as a fellow Brit, of course, he's not something you'd write home about a lot, whereas Linus Lundqvist is. So for Lundqvist not to get the seat and Blomqvist to get the seat, I'm confused. So my only reasoning is that we're waiting for Pagenaud to either announce he's leaving the team to go somewhere else, or he's announcing his retirement from IndyCar permanently. that like permanency. You come back like Helio has. That's the only reason I can see not to have the fastest driver in there at the moment, which is definitely Linus Lundqvist. So I don't know.
Yeah.
It's so bizarre. But there's something brewing, and we've got, 4 races left now? Within those 4 races, I bet you Pagenaud won't be at any until the last one, and then at the last one, he'll announce he's leaving. Don't know whether it be the team or full-time retirement, but something's going on. It just doesn't feel right.
Man, I hope Simon Pagenaud's not done. I really hope not. I really like the guy. He had an offer to stay with Team Penske when he left the team, but that was to go over their IMSA team. Yeah. So Simon Pagenaud decided to stay in IndyCar, pursue other teams, so he signed with Shank. And I know it hasn't gone the way he wanted at all, I imagine, but I would hate for this to be the way he ends his career in IndyCar. I mean, he's a champion Indy 500 winner. And for that crash at Mid-Ohio, whether or not that's a factor in what's going on, I hope not. But I just hope that if he's ending his career in IndyCar at any point soon, that I hope it's just one more full season at the bare minimum that we get to see him. I understand Linus Lundqvist is probably the better choice, but I would hate to see Simon Pagenaud, not be able to finish his career on a good note,
Now, I do want to go off topic for a second. I'm so sorry, Isha, for taking over, but can we just bring Joe back in for a second? Because I want to ask you all a question here that I've just thought of here. Yeah. So, hello, Joe. Very quickly, go with me on this. Romain Grosjean and Andretti. Now, it's no secret that they're not in the best of terms right now. So what if Romain does get dropped and that 28 car is opened up for Simon Pagenaud to go straight in? Great working relationship with DHL, great opportunity with a good, strong car. Is that an opportunity for Simon Pagenaud to get back into winning race and go to Andretti in that 28 car? That's something I've just thought of, because that's the only thing I can think of a possibility of a seat mover.
Huh.
I don't know who wants to go first on that.
I have a response, but you asked for Joe.
Joe first, then go on.
I would say that is an interesting thought, because with all the rumors of Grosjean not being happy, will he really be wanting to come back for a third season, see how things go, or change it up? We know he has a lot of potential, especially in sports car racing. So I think there's a lot of options on the table. DHL, questions about their future. IndyCar silly season is shaping up to be, I think, out of the 7 series in the grid ranking, the most interesting. We'll talk about Palou much later on, but there's a lot of moving pieces, and we can't move them until a couple key drivers find out where they're going.
Yeah, that Pagenaud to the 28, that'd be really cool. I don't know if I see that happening, though. That'd be so cool, though. I would love that. But I feel like a lot of what's going on, though, we're going to talk about Palou later. It's all going to go back to Alex Palou. And there's been reports that DHL is possibly thinking of leaving Andretti. There's just a lot of different dominoes that have to fall. I've been thinking, like this speculation, I've been thinking Marcus Ericsson going over to the 28 because he's not happy at Ganassi, that he wants to be paid for driving, doesn't want to pay for the ride. And that DHL ride, that would be an option if Grosjean is indeed out at Andretti. But it all comes down to Palou, again, because Palou is just the center of all this. And then if he leaves, and Ericsson would still have an option at Ganassi, I think. I don't know. It's who knows?
Could we then put Pagenaud at Ganassi then as another option seat if that
who knows?
Around? It's so confusing. But I know Isha's got more on the script about what's going on with the silly season, so I apologize, Isha, for jumping in there. I've done an Eddie Jordan.
No worries. So now it's no secret that we're down to the season's final stages with this weekend, Gateway, Portland, and Laguna Seca. Alex Palou's main rival appears to be Joseph Newgarden, who had a disappointing qualifying result. He finished 19th, while Alex Palou got 9th and won at this track the last time. Alex, on the Gay Racing podcast, said the championship is Palou-over. Is it over if Alex Palou finishes ahead of Newgarden, Dixon, and McLaughlin? Starting with Joe.
Oh, sorry.
I was just going to say, if he finishes ahead of those three, especially the way the points is looking, as Alex said, it is Palou-over, because really going to Gateway, take care of the car. Even if you don't leave with the points, you come into Portland where you won there before. it's just pretty much game over. And if you don't seal it in Portland, pretty much just finish the race at Laguna Seca.
I wanted to shout out Jackson Lambros if he's still in the chat. He's who coined that term, at least to me. That's when I first heard of it. So I've been using it like crazy lately. It's pullover. This championship is pullover. Alex Palous' championship, unless he's distracted with all the drama he's got going on. Because we saw last year he had all this drama with Ganassi going on as well, and then he just wasn't running like himself until Laguna Seca last year. So who knows? But then Joseph Newgarden starts pretty much last today, because of course he does, and because that makes this championship interesting. So yeah, it's pretty much over. It's pullover, and Newgarden's going to need Palou to have an issue today. And he's already had an issue off the track. He's going to need these issues to be on the track, not just off.
Where's that SpongeBob meme of write that down? I'll
Write
get
that
that
down
on the commentary box more for later. If that happens. No, I think you're all right, actually. It's done, isn't it, now? With only a couple of more races to go, Palou's got such an advantage in this championship. And he's remaining consistent. He had an off weekend in Toronto, didn't he? Nothing went right from there. But he has been focused. He's kept going. And I think he's going to be stronger again. But again, oval tracks, he doesn't like it. Bob Morado's coming up next. That's going to be difficult. Portland, of course, Joe. Oh, my. And there we are. No, I've gone again. I'm in there. My wife, it's very hot in the UK right now, but there's a windstorm. So it's blowing all the signals up. So sorry if I'm dropping in and out. What was I saying? Yeah. So we've got Bob Morado coming up. That's an oval track. Palou doesn't like them. He just doesn't work with them this year. Joe's going to be at Portland, so of course. So that's going to be a lot of fun to see. Maybe Portland's where you're going to get all the exclusives. So get your mic ready for shoving it in drivers' faces, Joe. We're going to be needing all those interviews. And of course, then Laguna Seca, where the championship would have been wrapped up before that. So I don't know. Which one's second to last? Is it Bob Morado or is it Portland before the last one? Bob Morado, then Portland. Yeah.
Portland.
Okay, should be fun. But this championship's going to be over and done. Yeah. This championship will be over and done quicker than I can get out the commentary box, get back into the house and have, food. This is around about 10 seconds. Where I was going with that.
And we have some more news with Alex Palou. Yesterday, Jenna Fryer from the Associated Press reported that Alex Palou informed Zach Brown that he would not be coming to McLaren. Compared to a year ago when Ganassi tweeted Palou was staying in 2023, Palou infamously tweeted that it was inaccurate and did not approve or sign with them. Now, Palou appears to be set with Ganassi again. And I believe we have a comment in the chat box. Ben says Chip Ganassi just went off on McLaren. Yikes. So, I don't know what's going on with the situation, but it's just very surprising. So, Josh, starting with you, do you think this is the right move for Palou, and could this be a distraction for him?
I think it definitely is a distraction. It was a distraction last year as well. With all the contract disagreements he had, he couldn't find his form in the second half of the season. And as you said, Alex, earlier on the show, he didn't find it until the last race at Laguna Seca. So this is not needed. This all boils down because at the end of last year, we all talked about it, McLaren, and specifically Zach Brown, went round with a giant net and they scooped up every driver who came out of contract and signed them for the team to drive Formula One. Now, that's a big thing. They signed F1 contracts. That includes Pato O'Ward, Felix Rosenquist, Alex Palou did it as well. Trying to think who else is at the McLaren team that I haven't mentioned. That's off the top of my head now.
Alex Rossi.
Even in Alex Rossi, thank you. Rossi was in there too. Formula E as well. Right, it was all down as well as like, this is what's going to happen. You'll all be signed to Formula One contracts and then we'll put you in other series if you can't go in. Now, obviously, Lando Norris was always going to drive at McLaren. He's their star prodigy for the future. But it was that number 2 seat that was really what everybody was after. Now, O'Ward tested and was told he got the drive. Rosenquist tested, was told he didn't get the drive. But crucially, Alex Palou did test, and I believe he took part in an F1 session as well, as did Pato O'Ward. And Palou got told, you've got the seat. In comes Oscar Piastri, and he gets signed to the seat. That made Palou extremely angry. And that's when he put the tweet out saying, no, I'm not driving for McLaren. I'm not driving for Chip Ganassi next year, driving for McLaren. Then Ganassi took them to court. Ganassi won. Palou raced with Chip Ganassi this year and realised, oh, actually, yeah, I don't know why I ever considered leaving for Formula One. Because he didn't want to drive for McLaren in IndyCar. He wanted to drive for McLaren in Formula One, which is a different kettle of fish completely. So in IndyCar, he's with the best team right now. He doesn't want to leave, but now he's kind of like somebody who's been dating two people at the same time, and they've both found out. He's got to make a decision. He's either A, going to make a decision, or B, going to go see, I'll go somewhere else. It's make or break time. I don't like what Zach Brown did last year. I mentioned this during the off-season. I thought it was incredibly unprofessional to sign so many drivers to F1 contracts and then divvy them up elsewhere. It makes a mockery of the system of climbing the ladders in respective series. Piastri has taken all year really to get good, hasn't he? He's in end of the first half of the season in F1, and now he's starting to deliver. And Palou and O'Ward even as well. O'Ward seems to be happy enough at McLaren. I'm hoping Joe, when he goes there, can ask him a few questions about that as well. But Alex Palou, definitely an angry driver right now, saying, look, I had a shot at Formula One. I was told I was in Formula One, had to settle with IndyCar. I like what I'm doing in IndyCar right now with my current team. Don't want to go drive a McLaren, which is so unreliable. So, yeah, it all boils down to that. And whatever Palou decides to do doesn't matter, because it's all going to go down to this contract recognition board again. Because Ganassi have got the contract for this year. That was already locked in last year. That's why they won this year. But McLaren have got a contract for next year for him that is also signed in. So it looks like Palou's going to have to drive for them next year. But then that also sets off, where does Rosenquist go? Because Rosenquist's only there because Palou isn't there. So Rosenquist's going to get kicked out. Does he go to Formula One? But what does that do to Rene Rast and Jake Hughes? Because they've both been doing brilliantly this year. So where does Rosenquist go? Now, he could go to Extreme E, but again, there's only one male driver and one female driver allowed at McLaren over there. It all goes wrong. So Joe Samir just said, you're going to say, Joe, aren't you, that Felix goes back to the 10. Could do, looks more likely, if so they could do a direct swap back over, but I don't know. It's going to be the world's biggest game of poker ever, and whoever can do the best poker face will win this. Nobody has a clue what's going to happen. And it's all because Zach Brown had a bit too much sherbet and decided to go a little bit crazy and sign everybody at the end of last year. I think at one point it was up to 14 drivers he signed for a Formula One contract. It was madness. And he's placed them everywhere. So, yeah, not good. And it all links back to F1 again. The great, great silly season of motorsport. That's me rambling done.
Josh, you nailed that. Everything you said was perfect. Like, you got every little detail down. Bravo. I just want to say that if Palou, assuming he wants to go back to the 10, of course it's the right move. I mean, look at what he's doing this year. He's going to wrap up the championship before the finale, which hasn't been done in a very long time. Like, this guy is just, it feels like he's unstoppable. Like, if you watch NASCAR in the early 2000s, he's basically the new Jimmy Johnson. He's just the luckiest man, and he's just always there and is just unbothered, which you got to be unbothered to be going what he's going through right now. But if you listen to the Gay Racing Podcast and you know of our news segment, the tea is hot and it is being spilled all over by Alex Palou right now. It is just overflowing. I don't know what's going to happen because Alex Palou is signed by McLaren, as Josh pointed out. And last year it was different because Chip Ganassi Racing had an option and they could have exercised it, and they hadn't yet when all that stuff was going down, and then they used it, whatever. They came to an agreement for Palou to race this year. How is he going to get out of this? I don't know, because he's literally signed to race for them next year. So if he's just saying, oh, I don't plan on racing for you next year, what do you mean? You signed the contract. And also, my favorite part of this whole story is Zach Brown has already paid Alex Palou for 2024, which is the funniest part of this whole situation.
I forgot that. Yeah, didn't he? That's why he paid him at the end of last year.
He did. And that's probably like 10 or so. So, everyone's happy. Everyone's just so happy. But to answer the distraction question I mentioned earlier, it could be but it's Alex Palou. He's just so unbothered. This has been happening behind the scenes. So,
it was IMS last year when we were
say.
talking about it as well, wasn't it? On the road course last year, it was the race just after Piastri had said, no, I'm not going to race for Alpine. And that kicked off everything. It's the only silly season I can remember where it started in F1 and spread over to IndyCar, Extreme E, Formula E, and every other series under the sun. Even Super Formula got involved. It was insane how much drivers are wanted at top tier levels. And personally, it's Oscar Piastri's fault. All of this. All of it. And Zach Brown. There are them. Trust Zach Brown to do it as well. The what was it? He was a racer as well, so he knows exactly what to do to get everybody annoyed.
This has just been a mess that McLaren's all had going last year, and I thought, okay, last year was the craziness with the tweet that Palou is going to be with Ganassi, then Palou saying, I'm not going with Ganassi, I'm going with McLaren, then Oscar Piastri doing the same thing, and I thought, well, it won't happen. And now here we are again, and it's like, literally a year later at the same track, and we're talking about Alex Palou again. This time he's leading the championship. I do think this could be some sort of distraction. If I'm one of the drivers, especially like Scott McLaughlin, Joseph Newgarden, I'm going to try to get in his head. I would want Palou to be distracted and screw up in this race because we know Palou won here earlier this year, first race here. If he could go out there, get phased, screw up, get a DNF, I'm back in the hunt. So that's the big hope I have. For Alex Palou, though, I think it's a good point you brought up, Alex. He had Jimmy Johnson as a teammate in his first year with Chip Ganassi Racing. And while we were in Portland, Jenna Fryer asked Alex Palou a question, and Palou said he's learned a lot about handling the pressures of racing for a championship from Jimmy Johnson. Do you think he's probably using those lessons learned from a valuable 7-time champion of NASCAR? I think so, but still, just a thought, now you're going to potentially have a looming battle between Chip Ganassi, McLaren. If McLaren wins out, you're not going to be in the number 1 seat for F1 seat. You're probably going to be stuck in the IndyCar seat, which it's not looking that great. Like, they have some fast cars, but in Iowa, they missed the setup. We just not seen it compared to what Ganassi has been showing week in and week out. I just can't believe this. It just feels like some sort of, if you all remember the TikTok with that goofy music going around trying to explain this, is like, this just feels like it's just unending, and it's going to be really interesting to see what happens. I mean, in the chat room, 2024 silly season is going to be crazy. Yep, it definitely has. And the statement from Chip Ganassi, particularly the second paragraph, Alex Palou has been part of our team and under contract since the 2021 season. It is the interference of the contract from McLaren that began this process, and ironically, they are now playing the victim. Simply stated, the position of McLaren IndyCar regarding our driver is inaccurate and wrong. He remains under contract with Chip Ganassi Racing. This offseason, it's going to be really interesting. And will this even be resolved by the time we get ready for the first race? That's going to be really interesting to see what happens.
No, Guido van der Garde, 2014 in Formula One. He turned up into the paddock, was stopped at the gate, managed to get in, and literally walked to the garage with his fire suit, helmet, and everything. Went to get in the car, and they went, well, what are you doing? What are you doing? You're not here. I have this court document here saying that I can drive the car. I've got a contract. And literally, Sauber were forced to miss practice 1 because there was lawyers standing around the car looking at that going, don't let anybody in that car. So Manisha Kaltenborn, who's the team principal then, was in a similar situation. And Esteban Gutierrez ended up getting like quite a lot of money just to go away from Formula One. But yeah, I think we could be having that again. And do you know what? It all links back to the F1 seat as well, because I've just been trying to think, if Zach Brown can't place him in a Formula One seat, because they've all got F1 contracts, of course, if he can't put him in the McLaren team, there's nowhere else they can put him, because McLaren are a Mercedes engine manufacturer. Mercedes have their own development driver program, and they've already got Russell and Hamilton, the main team, and then the Aston Martins as well. They're going over to Honda, so they're not really going to be looking to move around, even though depending how rubbish Lance Stroll is. And further down the order as well, Williams have got it locked in with Alexander Albon with Red Bull as well. That's sort of why he's there. And they're not going to go to Logan Sargent just yet because of Dorito Capital, who is the American owner of Williams, and it's an American driver. Would they really want to put Alex Palou in that? Maybe, but Sargent also brings the bucks, and Palou's already not happy. He has to pay out this much and losing a contract. So unless McLaren pay Williams a lot of money, and I really mean a lot of money, to get rid of Logan Sargent, who has come up through the ranks of the Formula 3, Formula 2. I remember Logan Sargent in the days of being on the support package for the British Touring Car Championship in British F4. So Sargent really has, like Lando Norris, grown up through the ranks, and he's just got his opportunity in Formula 1. He's doing really, really well now in the second half of the season. Williams are not going to get rid of him. So Palou is pretty much out of option. So it's going to be really difficult for McLaren. And we said this last year. So we need Ben with those clips, don't we, that he makes? Because I said last year, this is going to come back to bite them. And it has. It hasn't just bitten them as well. It's taken the arm, it's taken a bit of the leg, it's taken a bit of the brain as well, obviously, because Zach Brown thinks this was all a good idea to begin with. So it's all ridiculous. It's all wrong. And this is going to explode. Great for us, bad for PR.
Yes.
You know, Alex, I think you're so right. There's so much tea to be spilled here. And speaking of spilling the tea, Kobe, Josh, and Matt from Grid Tonight will be doing just that when they report on the latest on this story Wednesday. So today's IndyCar Series race is a very international field, but the NASCAR weekend is stacked with international talent. Shane Van Gisbergen is back, Jensen Button from Formula One, Mike Rockenfeller from Sports Cars, and Kamui Kobayashi, who has raced F1, Le Mans, and now NASCAR. Starting with Alex, how big is this for NASCAR to have all of this international talent? And after the last two races here, which saw questionable driving, concerns NASCAR should embarrass themselves.
This is a huge weekend for NASCAR. I know it's on the Indianapolis road course, which has a weird reputation right now, but this is awesome. I mean, what other race are you going to get something like this besides maybe like the Rolex 24 or like Le Mans? Because this is just so exciting. I'm so excited to see how this goes. I mean, SVG's back after Chicago. Jensen Button's back. Mike Rockenfeller's in the 42. That was a late addition. Kamui Kobayashi, I am so excited to see that man in this car because he has been one of the most exciting drivers to watch over in IMSA in the past few years when he drove the Ally 48. This is going to be so much fun. I just, like you mentioned, Isha, I just hope this isn't going to be messy, and I'm hoping that the new restart zone will help that. Some drivers seem to say that it will, because you don't want to give a bad impression to a lot of these guys. And that was a concern I had at COTA as well, and that race turned it out to be a little messy as well. So we'll see. I hope that the drivers don't embarrass themselves again and just don't get too wrecky and everything. Show some respect to these guys.
Now, with the restart zone, are they taking them onto the banking instead? Is that what they're going to do? Because I think that's a good idea to do the restarts, because otherwise they're going to be too close to the chicane.
It's in the middle of that last group of corners, and then the choose zone is going to be like on that last straight before that last corner.
Again, NASCAR not thinking. To me, I would have just made them go two, because they go 2 by 2 on the restart. So I would have just made them go round the banking to do the restart. I think that's a much more sensible, because it gives them all a good exit to line up and charge back down towards turn 1. If we're going to use the road course on restarts, just use the last corner. I don't see why it's such a thing. But anyway, how big is this weekend for NASCAR? Very big. And I say why, because when Jensen Button did Chicago, the very next time he was on an F1 broadcast, he was talking about it. In Hungary, he was talking about everything, how great it was, how exciting it was, how new it was, and how much he enjoyed it as well. Same as when he raced at COTA. So Jensen does come over and he does talk great things about NASCAR, which I really hope is going to be inclining that Sky might pick up the rights again, like they have done for IndyCar, which would be absolutely amazing, because it means I get to see it, not minutes or behind as well, like I usually do. So that's going to be good. Apparently there's a comment for me that I need to take a look at in the chat from Joe. So I'll look to my screen. Ben says, or we go back to what worked for decades prior to 2009 and at Chicago this year and just do single file restarts. Yeah, that too. I don't know why they have to make every start is a start with, it doesn't work. I mean, I've often said in Formula One, I love the fact that we have standing start restarts now, but another option in the regulation should be that say it's raining, we can't do the 5-light procedure, an option should be go 2x2 for the starts. But in NASCAR, it just creates more problems. So single file would be better on a restart. But yeah, this weekend going to be mega. Shane Van Gisbergen actually said, didn't he, in a press release I read this morning, that he's not enjoying at all the supercars anymore. With this new generation of cars, the Gen 3, he just says the winning's great, but the racing's dull. So he doesn't like it. So he won his first ever race. He's probably not going to do that this time out. But he will be in a very good position. And I think he is going to make the switch permanent, at least for a year, to give it a go. And for Mike Rockenfeller, as you said, very late change. Gregson going and the 42 coming in now with Mike Rockenfeller. Fantastic opportunity for him to get some good publicity for the team. And Legacy Motorsport as well, having a great weekend. It's going to be a lot of fun. I just so wish it was on the oval. And I think if it was on the oval, JB would still do it, because JB has always said, Jenson Button, he's always said that the one reason he doesn't do the Indy 500 is because of how fast it is in a single-seater. But this is it's a monocoque car, it's a chassis car, stock car. So he's always said that's probably a bit more safer to do it in than in the Indy 500 cars. So I think he would do it, and it's the only one he would do. And I think this whole Project 91 bring it in as well, really good opportunity. We need to start getting more in. Raikkonen's been in, Kobayashi's coming in, Button's been in as well. We need to get more drivers in there during the season. For instance, we've got an entire Formula E off-season now. Let's get Sebastian Buemi in, who has done a lot of popular driving around the world. I would really love to see Lucas de Grassi in there, because his energy is going to be fun, the Brazilian. So yeah, and he's done stock car racing in the past as well in Brazil. So there's an opportunity there to open it up a bit more and just sort of bring people in and open up NASCAR to the new century, which is doing very, very well. So I'm looking forward to it this weekend. I won't be on the call, but I'll be listening in to USRN's coverage of it. And then I'll be watching all the post-race stuff as well. And I'm about to watch the pre-stuff, because you're about to preview the race.
A couple comments in the chat room. Ben saying it's more entertaining, Josh, in regards to the single-file restarts and double-file restarts. And Adam, can't forget Brody Kosecki, of course, Brody leading the points in the Supercar Series here with Richard Childress racing. Overall, this is going to be, I think, a very fun and exciting race weekend. I like the Indianapolis road course overall. Not so much for NASCAR, but I think it gets the job done for IndyCar, having something to kick off the month of May. When it comes to this race with the international talent, NASCAR has learned from the mistakes of the first year, the second year, the restarts. I think this is going to be a better race. Still, the NASCAR drivers, we're talking stock cars with fenders. You could beat them bang. So I think NASCAR wants to have a fine balance of an entertaining race where you're seeing the beating, the banging. This is what NASCAR is all about, the physical racing compared to open wheel, single-seater racing where you can't really do that. But you don't want it to be too much where it just looks like a demolition derby, a chance, random kind of event where anybody could get pushed out of the way and they're out of the race win. So I think for NASCAR, this is going to be a very big race weekend. I think they're doing all the right steps to ensure it doesn't become a mess like we've seen in years past. But it's going to be all up to the drivers, though. What kind of stuff are we going to see at that restart zone? Is somebody going to try to figure out some way, capitalize, and pick up as many positions entering that front stretch where you can really, if you can make it 3 wide, entering that front straightaway into the turn 1, that's going to be really something else. A lot of potential, I think, to watch for these restarts.
Absolutely. And moving on to the NASCAR part of the program as well. We have Chris Buescher trying to steal the headlines with a major upset win and looking for his 3rd in a row as well. He has been good on the road courses, but this could be a physical race with drivers like AJ Allmendinger, Chase Elliott, and Michael McDowell outside the playoff field. And Alex and Joe, welcome back up as well. Starting with you, Alex. Does Chris Buescher and the other drivers with multiple wins prioritize going for stage points and sacrificing the race wins since there are no stage breaks anymore on road courses?
You know, since there aren't stage cautions on the road courses, I feel like you could probably go for both. I don't think it's necessary to prioritize one or the other anymore on the road courses. I honestly feel like you could just, it's the Indianapolis road course, might be just a bunch of yellows. Who knows, won't even matter. But I feel like you could probably get a stage win here and there, and then also win the race. I feel like we saw that at Sonoma. I feel like the stage breaks, the stage cautions just really deterred a lot of the strategy. That's why they got rid of the cautions for these. And I'm excited to see that, actually. I'm really hoping that we'll have some strategy play out. We won't have just a wreck fest. But yeah, I don't think there's necessarily a priority for either. I think if you're a driver like Ty Gibbs or Michael McDowell or Bubba Wallace, who struggles on these road courses, I feel like one of those guys are on the playoff bubble. They should maybe prioritize stages a little than others. But a win gets them right in. They won't have to worry about it. So it's hard to sell.
It's going to be really interesting to see how this race plays out because those cautions, if we get a lot of cautions throughout the race, I think that's going to really start to dictate the strategy, especially a driver like Martin Truex Jr., where the road course is not exactly their strong suit. Maybe you stay out to try to get that stage win, sacrifice a little bit of going for the overall win, but you could just have another caution. The crew chiefs, they're really going to be looking at the trends of how this race is shaping up because without those stage breaks, I feel it's going to be a totally different game. We saw that with Sonoma, how it just about almost went caution free. If you have a race that's going caution free, the field spread out, you're going to be adjusting your strategy. But if you're seeing, okay, we're going so few laps before another caution, it's going to bring up another strategy, looking at trends. And then, of course, the late cautions. Overall, I feel if you're in the top 20 and we get a caution with 10 laps to go, it's game on. We know how the drivers are going to be really aggressive. They're going to be learning how to handle this new restart, especially since they'll still be double file. I think it's going to be a really interesting race, and especially if we get that late cautions. If you're in that top 20, you've got a shot at the win, in my opinion.
Yes, rain is not forecast. Sorry, rain is in the forecast again. It's currently not raining, but potentially this is going to impact another race weekend in NASCAR 2023. There's no rain in the forecast for Sunday's race at the moment, but it does come down to qualifying. And with such a diverse field, almost anybody can get the pole position. Joe and Alex, who are your three drivers to watch in qualifying today?
Well, definitely we'll start with the past two winners here. AJ Allmendinger, Tyler Reddick. They both won here. They've got good equipment. AJ doesn't exactly have the best equipment out of all the Chevrolet drivers, but he knows how to work the car around the road course. The third one I'm going to say, and I think it's sort of the easy one a lot of people are going to be looking at, Shane Van Gisbergen. He's been here in this Cup car in Chicago. I think he has a lot of potential still. And overall, I don't feel people talk about the street course being a huge advantage for him, and I agree with that. But I still don't think we saw the full potential of what he could do with this car on a road course. Those are my three drivers I'll be looking at in qualifying.
Yeah, for me, Tyler Reddick is who you got to watch. I think he's probably going to get pole. He has just been a rocket on all the road courses this year. My second one, I want to look at Christopher Bell. He's just been very sneakily, quietly good all year, especially in qualifying, I feel. He's gotten a lot of poles, I feel like. And then my third one is Kamui Kobayashi, because he did a test at VIR and to prep for this and did a bunch of simulation work. And he has been very good over in IMSA. So I feel like with him, he's going to be like a really big threat, possibly to win this race, but also for qualifying. I think he's going to put down a really fast lap in quali.
Absolutely. Cheeky chappy is Kamui Kobayashi. A story I often tell during the red flag periods is when I was at Silverstone in 2018 for the World Endurance race. Finished second in that race along with Mike Conway. And they're coming down. They just got disqualified from the race. Unbeknownst to me, because we haven't been given the official information. It was Mike's birthday. I interviewed Mike. He's a bit annoyed, a little bit, but very calm, very kind as well. But you can tell he wasn't happy. And then all of a sudden, Kamui Kobayashi's behind me, and he's bouncing around like a clown, just going like that, all fun as well. And I grab him in and speak to him about it and say, Kamui, your next race, it's at your home in Japan in Fuji. You were on the podium in Suzuka in 2012. Are you looking forward to it? I pounded the microphone, and he goes, when was I on the podium? I was like, don't do that. Live on air as well. And he's having a joke, and he just said it's going to be a great weekend. So yeah, ended up as well in a hug with him as well. That's how it goes. But yeah, very cheeky chappy, Kamui Kobayashi. I can't wait as well to see how he does this weekend. And Joe, you mentioned as well, as we see, Adam says SVG was 12th in practice for the NASCAR Cup Series race at the IMS Road Course, and both now Adam and Joe mentioned Shane van Gisbergen. And last night, SVG competed his first ever NASCAR Oval event at the Lucas Oil in Indianapolis Raceway Park. He finished 19th, one lap down, and said he had fun, even laughing in the car. Now that he has an oval in his book of NASCAR experience, a short oval, mind, can he be more comfortable this weekend compared to Chicago?
I don't think necessarily it impacts Indianapolis, but I think it welcomes him into the NASCAR community a bit more, and just feeling like he's a part of the family of motorsport. I feel here in America, like he just had so much fun, and just following the reports of what he was saying on the radio. He didn't know what a free pass was, if that was a good or not, which was very funny. Just, I don't know. I'm so happy that he's really interested in NASCAR. I really hope that he does find something full time. We don't know for sure what he's going to be doing next year, but it's going to be a lot of fun.
I do see this as going to be a very interesting time to see Shane van Gisbergen making this transition to NASCAR racing. And that was really refreshing, because sometimes I get concerned that when you have a driver come from an international kind of sport to oval racing where there's beating, there's banging, and it's just sort of that frustration that, it's such a different type of racing. But he just seemed to be really enjoying it, seeing how you had to fight for control with this vehicle. So you had to keep adjusting it over and over. And you don't have the luxury like some of the other vehicles where you could do some adjustments in the vehicle. This is a truck, essentially still a race car, but there's a lot to work. And he, I think, handled it great. And I think you bring up a good point, Alex, about welcoming in the NASCAR family. It's not just, I'm here in Chicago, I'll do the road courses, see you all later. No, he's generally interested in making this a permanent move, learning the ovals, a short track. We know the fan base really cares about the short tracks. So make your first oval race a short track race, I think, will go long in getting him some fans. That experience of beating and banging, I think he's going to be really comfortable. And if he ends up in a situation where he is mid-pack and there's beating and banging, I think he's going to be a little bit more better prepared compared to if he was mid-pack beating and banging in Chicago that first race, especially where a lot of drivers had no experience on the street course. So I think he's overall in a better spot because of what he has done so far at the short track.
Absolutely, and I'm looking forward to it. If he does make the move next year permanent as well, I look forward to being able to commentate on him for only the third time. Now, this does look like it's going to be a very fun and exciting NASCAR Cup Series race, and we're going to bring Isha back in for this part as we talk again about the international lineup. We have two former Formula F1 drivers as well, and two current supercars racers and sports car racers, and the number of wins across the board as well is insane. We've got 82 supercar wins, 45 IMSA wins, 15 F1 wins, 5 IndyCar wins, and 13 championships between those 4 series as well. Isha, if we were to see an F1 driver come over for a Cup Series race, which drivers would you be the most likely to come over, and which one would be the biggest surprise if they do come over?
I think the most obvious answer for this question is Max Verstappen. He has a very, very dominant season so far. He's already a 2-time world champion, and he has expressed an interest in NASCAR. He would like to drive for them, and I think it would be a great new challenge for him once he gets tired of being so dominant in Formula One. And I think that the second answer I would go with for someone who would be a surprise, but also would be likely to come over, is Lewis Hamilton. He's already been a 7-time world champion. He's pretty much accomplished everything that there is to accomplish in Formula One. And he has also expressed an interest in NASCAR. So I think him and Max Verstappen are the two drivers we would be most likely to see come over for NASCAR.
Yeah, I think, Isha, you're right on the head on that. It's Verstappen be most likely and Hamilton be the big surprise, but that'd be so cool, either of them, to do that. But to kind of go away from F1, I do want to say, I think Joseph Newgarden and Scott McLaughlin over in IndyCar, they're going to make NASCAR starts at some point in their careers. Joseph is just a monster on the ovals in IndyCar, and Scott McLaughlin is just like SVG. He can do literally anything. I think both of them you're going to see race in NASCAR at one point or another.
I agree with you all. Hamilton, I think, isn't welcome in IndyCar after the comment he made when Alonso made the trip over. So I don't think he's going to be there. I think Max probably would have a go and get black flagged. But I think I'm going to go a bit outside. I think Valentino Rossi is somebody who could make a move over as well, because he's retired from MotoGP. He's been racing in the GT World Cup now challenge and doing very, very well in that as well. He won a couple of races. And he likes car racing. So I reckon he could make a switch over, because he has expressed interest before about possibility of running America Series. Doesn't want to do Indy, but I think NASCAR's right up his street as well. But yeah, I would say there's so many you could choose from, but NASCAR is such a specific type of series. You've got to really be a petrol head to have a run and have a go in it. It's not like any other motorsport series. Not that it's not just as competitive or just as seriously taken, but it's the fact that it is so different to any other form of motorsport. It's unique, the history that comes with it, and the sort of the feeling that it's still, just a big group, bigger fun event. That's what it is. That's what I love about it as well. It just feels different. Like there's not a lot of pressure there. There's dramatic moments, but at the end of the day, it all feels quite light-hearted and quite good fun. So it's quite good. How British was that? Quite good fun.
Yep, and now continuing with NASCAR, NASCAR is gaining this much international attention for one race at Indianapolis, which is the racing capital of the world. They did have a presence at the Le Mans 24 Hours and had a popular presence, and many also welcomed Garage 56 to France. Plus, this is NASCAR's 75th year, and this year seems to have its shares of highs as well as lows. Alex, Joe, what has stood out so far in this 75th season of NASCAR for you guys?
This has been a crazy season for NASCAR, and I think what we've been talking about, that has been what's standing out the most this season. Just all these guest stars that are coming over to NASCAR, wanting to try it out, and that was a goal with this Gen 7 car, the next gen as they call it. That was a goal, to just bring in anyone and be like, hey, you can drive this car. They made it more like a supercar. They made it more like an IMSA car. And I think that's been successful. I think there's more issues they need to figure out on short tracks and everything. But that's just I can't imagine telling myself 5 years ago, hey, Shane Van Gisbergen's going to run a race and win, and Jenson Button's going to run a bunch of races. I just can't imagine believing that. It's crazy. Really cool year.
It's been a phenomenal year, and for me, I feel the big difference. I still remember NASCAR's 50th year. Of course, that was when you had Dale Earnhardt, Jeff Gordon, and really it was the rival of Jeff Gordon, the new era. But it's still the old traditional Winston Cup, the current point system, and just continuing what it has. Where this one, the 75th season, it feels more like this is what NASCAR is going to be doing in the next 25 years leading up to our 100th. With this new generation of car, these international drivers popping up, they're doing new events such as the Chicago Street Course, looking at other events to do. I mean, Alex, you mentioned about, 5 years ago, you talked about Shane Van Gisbergen in this field. As Ben has said before, you told somebody 5 years ago North Wilkesboro was going to be back, and they're going to race on ring tires for the All-Star race. I would have been like, I don't know what you're doing, but there's no way that's happening. This has been, I think, really refreshing to see. It seems like NASCAR is showing we're going to be evolving this sport. It's not just celebrating 75 years. This is the 75th season, but we're evolving to be more of a sport where we're going to have international talents, more diverse events. We know they have a big commitment when it comes to welcoming everyone, being more inclusive. I think this is sort of this is what NASCAR is about going forward.
And to add on to we would have never seen that coming. They raced in downtown Chicago this what? That's crazy. And then it wasn't first time this year, but they also raced in the Los Angeles Coliseum.
Yeah.
That's bizarre. It just feels like we're playing Mad Libs or something with NASCAR lately. It's bizarre, crazy.
And I totally agree with you guys. And if we're taking a look at this weekend, we've got one change in Chicago, the first ever street course. The restart zone moved to before the last corner. So, you won't have a packed field coming to take the green flag on restarts like in the past years. And we will see fewer dive bombs and chaos in turn one on restarts. Starting with Joe, do you think this is the right move, or is the chaos okay in moderation?
The chaos is okay in moderation, especially with NASCAR. This is stock cars, beating and banging is the name of the game. But we assume this is the right move. I know the drivers are going to be thinking, how can I work this restart so that way if I'm in the inside of row two, can I time it so when we come out of that final corner, I could just swing and make it three wide? And then you know it's game on because everyone's going to start, hey, that's a good idea. I'm going to try that at the next restart. So it's going to be really interesting to see how the drivers respond to this. If they can figure a way to gain that position, because we know that is so hard. That's why the restarts are so important at this racetrack. They're going to find a way. I think we're still going to have some chaos. I don't think we're going to have what we had last year and the year before, where you had 20 plus cars, 3 or 4 wide across, Joey Logano going over the curves, just like a bowling ball, just seeing whoever gets thrown out. Sorry, I'm going to keep going. I don't think we'll see that. But if a driver figures out something, we're going to see some chaos. It's just going to be a matter of the drivers and how they respond to this change.
Yeah, I think this is the right move, at least in the move in the right direction for the track. I feel like a lot of the chaos might be moved to before the restart zone. They might like pile up there and just start spinning before they even take the green, which, that'd be fitting for NASCAR sometimes. But chaos is okay in moderation. I really do think that. Like Chicago, I think they had the perfect amount of chaos there because it was raining and, some drivers kept hitting into the tire barrier in turn 6. Like, it didn't feel ridiculous as some races can feel with NASCAR sometimes. I do think that it'll be better this year than last year. At least I hope.
All right, now it's time for everyone's favorite section of the show, Pick a Winner. We've got one race down, 2 more to go. Jonathan, Alex, and Joe correctly guessed Tony Stewart to win SRX at Eldora. Now we have 2 races, 1 track, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Starting with Alex, who's going to be your Pick a Winner for IndyCar?
Yeah, so for my podcast, I actually picked Alex Palou, but because of all the drama, I don't know if he's going to win. So I'm going to go with Christian Lundgaard, because this is probably his best track on the schedule. He is just really, really good right now. He's starting second. He's my pick.
Colton Herta. It's wet. It will rain. Herta. Indy. Rain. Last year. Done. Herta. And I'll dig my 6 foot down as well, and I'll lay on it and just ready to drown in it as well because of the rain that's going to come down.
I'm going to go with Palou. I think he's just going to go out there. He was so good the last time we raced here earlier this year. He seems to just make it to where he's flawless almost. And I don't think he's going to allow, because I think he sort of is just thinking, I'm going to stay with Chip Ganassi. Ganassi made that statement saying I'm with him. So it's going to be Alex Palou, my pick.
All good choices. Now, NASCAR. Alex, starting with you again, who will be your Pick a Winner?
Tyler Reddick. He avoided all the chaos last year. He avoided the chaos at COTA. He's my pick.
I'm going to go for Kyle Larson in number 5, so that's going to make Matt White a bit happy with that one. Can I put my prediction in for Zandvoort, by the way, already? Is it too early to say Max Verstappen?
Never know.
For this one, I think it's going to be a crazy race, despite the changes. I don't think it'll be just as chaotic as years past. But I'm going to go with the driver that I laughed when people were picking him for Chicago. And then I was like, well, I feel like I should have missed out on that. I'm going to go with Shane Van Gisbergen. Why not? I mean, he's good at this type of racing. He should have another good car with Project 91. I think he's going to easily try to get the win. Shane Van Gisbergen is my pick for the NASCAR race. And of course, definitely encourage everyone to share your pick of winners online throughout social media. We are on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Threads now. And of course, you're watching us here on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe. Hit that bell icon so you don't miss any of our programs, including Grid Tonight. Matt, Kobe, and Josh will be back on the air to discuss what's going on with Alex Palou. Be sure to invest in the Grid Network through Patreon, link in the video description. Call the show Mark Robin and David help us pay the bills. And you want to buy a cup of coffee for the Grid Network or any particular on-air person here in the Grid Network team, they'll much appreciate and they'll thank you on the air. For Joshua Burst, Alex Anderson, and Isha Azim, I'm Joe San Diego. Thank you for watching today's program. We'll see you next time and enjoy the races. Thank you for watching us right here on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe and check out some of our other videos, including Life on the Grid, where we interview folks from the motorsports industry. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.